Hello, and welcome to Wentworth Unlocked, a whole new fantastic title sequence for a new format. We're similar to Hot Off the Press, but we're going to be looking at individual episodes, episode by episode, in depth as we go along. Now, I'm very aware that when I do these introductions, which is basically me just talking to myself, it feels like, in my front room, that I don't think people are really listening, because all you really want to know is who's coming on. Have we got a guest? So, in a way, I feel a bit like that teacher from the Charlie Brown cartoon, just going wah 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 wah. But who is our first guest? Who is waiting to come on? Who could it be? Exactly. Yeah, you clearly remember those cartoons too.
That's me. I feel like that's it. Hi, everybody. Hi, John. So
Hello
lovely
there.
to see you. Hi.
Absolutely.
Happy birthday for the other day.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the message. That was lovely.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. I hope you can hear me okay. I've had a few technical difficulties this morning, and whoever's watching, Mum, thanks for putting up with the time it's taken to do that. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you absolutely perfectly. Can see and hear you.
Brilliant. Oh, I've never used these before. I feel like I'm now in a medical show. I look like I've got a stethoscope on.
You're back on Shortland Street.
Back on Shortland Street. But I just want to say I hope that thank you for the beautiful intro, and hello, Jen. And it's really lovely to be with my UK fam again. It's been so long. Hi, Danielle. Good name.
Yeah, it's pretty much been 2 years, hasn't it, since we last saw you in Melbourne?
Yeah, I know, and so much has happened in the world since then. Of course, everyone has been affected by the current world events, and it just keeps on going and going and going. I'm really stoked to see that you all over there have managed to pull together at Screen Star an event that's happening so soon, and I just got my ticket, so spread the word, everyone. I'm definitely coming. Nothing is going to stop me. I'm so looking forward to it. I really can't wait to jump on that plane and be over in Birmingham and Manchester, so and to discuss lots of other things other than Wentworth. Like, we've got this amazing family now. We just kind of know each other in lots of different ways.
Yeah, we've certainly missed seeing you in person and doing the live events, but this online versions have been great, and clearly because we're carrying them on even though the world is reopening and people are starting to fly again. Have you been anywhere yet? Have you actually taken advantage of being able to travel?
Down to my letterbox to pick up bills. No, I have. I've been to Melbourne. I went to Melbourne to do a Comic-Con there, which was super fun. And I did that with Kate Jenkinson. So it was fantastic to finally see her after all of this time. In fact, we've got another one coming up this weekend, so I'll be heading to Brisbane. I have just done lots of driving up and down the coast. My partner's got a van, so we get in the back of the van, we go camping. So we've been getting around a bit like that. But generally it's just been staying at home and, just living a very reasonable life compared to, I know, sadly, what some people are going through right now. So, I've been watching a lot of TV. But Nicole De Silva and I, we've hello, JCB. I'm going to try and say hello to everyone, but I also want to have this conversation. Thank you for all your hellos, everyone, by the way. So Nicole De Silva, who plays Frankie Doyle on the show, we've got a production company together. Most of you probably know that, but we've been doing a lot of work. So we're in the middle of producing our first play that's being it will be put on in August, September this year, which is very exciting. And we've also been in the midst of this very big development process with international companies as well for our film. So we've been doing a lot of that kind of work, which has been keeping me out of trouble.
Well, I remember back in February 2 years ago, you were very excited and talking about a play you were planning with Robbie in New Zealand. Now, I'm assuming that didn't happen, unfortunately.
It did happen. It
Oh,
just didn't
did.
happen with Robbie. So Robbie Magasiva wasn't able to be in it, but I worked with two other actors. I worked with a beautiful actress, Anapala, and another gentleman, Maori gentleman, Jason. Oh my goodness, I've just forgotten his name. Pro Jace, that's horrible. Oh my God, I feel terrible. Please don't show him this. This is
It'll come
menopause
back to
brain.
you. When you don't
Menopause
think about
brain,
it,
it's
it'll come
great.
back to you.
Go the hormones. And so I did actually. We did 2 seasons of that. So we ended up doing. I did fly over to New Zealand when we had the ability to do so. There was a window where I flew over and watched the show being performed at an arts festival over there, which was fab. So I did. I directed the play, but on Zoom. It was
Right.
it was not ideal, but it was actually really it was fun, and yeah, it certainly had its challenges. But it's, I don't know, for me, doing these things, like throwing yourself into, it's like what we're doing now. We probably wouldn't be doing this now if it wasn't for COVID.
No, indeed.
You know, it's kind of given birth to this whole way of how we communicate and share our stories, and hi Leanne Clark, and how we connect and how we deliver our experiences now. It's very different, and you know, I wouldn't wish this on the world ever again, but in other ways it's actually given birth to a whole new way of working, and you know, like and communing with each other, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Who knew that Zoom parties would become a thing? And Zoom dinner parties.
I know.
Although I suggested years ago, I suggested a Zoom dinner party to a friend who lives in Darwin, and she just looked at me as if I was a complete idiot. So 10 years down the line, I went, see, I was right. We could have done it. We could have been the first in the world to do it.
I know. I think that the thing is now is I just feel so sorry for Skype. You know, like imagine the guys at Skype going, "What happened here? You know, why aren't we like the top streaming or whatever? Not streaming, but like communications thing." Zoom just came in and just stole it. I just feel like those guys. You know, Zoom is like the poor old drunken uncle at the party who's sitting in the corner that no one wants to talk to anymore.
So, obviously, the focus of Wentworth Unlocked, our new online series, is to look at specific episodes. So we're going to be discussing mainly season 1, episode 1. But my first question is, when you were filming the series, did you film it episodically? Did you do it in order?
So what they do is they shoot it in blocks, and the blocks on this show was they were divided up into 2 episodes. So we'd shoot episode 1 and 2 as a block, and you'd shoot that completely out of order, and then you'd finish shooting that, and then you go on to the next block. So that you'll notice is that each block would have been directed, those 2 episodes would have been directed by a director. So the minute you change over the director, and then you get a new first assistant director as well, that's when you go into a new block. And like I said, it's not shot chronologically. It's shot all over the place. So you'd have to really know your character's arc over those 2 episodes, because you might be, you know, the first day of the new block, you might be shooting the very last scene of that block, where where you've like got scars. And so it's really important for the makeup department to chart your character's journey too, to go, hold on, you know, we've got that scar here now, how much would have it healed in that scene, or you know, what's the bruise going to look like there, you know. Everyone has to stay on top of how things would look, not only on the physical body, but you know, your costume, the set, all that kind of stuff.
Right. So time-wise, if you're working on a block of several episodes at once, do you tend to do all the laundry scenes at one time and then do all the unit scenes?
Yes. So it was always like whenever you'd always hear this collective groan when we were doing the cafeteria scenes. It would be like, oh, cafeteria, because the days were so long, and because you've got so many different characters in that one space. You know, contrary to say like a cell scene where you might only have a couple of people or 2 people, or even just 1 person. The cafeteria scene, you'd be covering, you know, in my instance, you'd be covering Boomer, and then Jax, and then Frankie, and then Bea, and then, you know, like, so the camera would have to set up so many different You'd have so many different camera setups to capture all that was going on in that cafeteria. So the caf days were very long, and you'd have to sit with those plastic trays filled with really shitty food, like creamed corn and a stale old toast and baked beans and stuff. So those days weren't favorite. And then same thing, like being out in the yard as well. There's always a lot of coverage, and so those days were particularly long. But they would try and piggyback those scenes with like location dependent, absolutely, because when you're working on a show like Wentworth, there are a lot of scenes, there are a lot of characters, and you've got to shoot a lot of time. They call it pages per day, and if you don't get it done, then they start cutting scenes, and they don't want that, because time is money in any filming capacity. Like you can't, unless you're Francis Ford Coppola and you've got like an extra 3 months and $5 million up your sleeve, you have to get it done.
You mentioned filming in the yard, and knowing how unpredictable and changeable the weather is in Melbourne, that must be a nightmare for the continuity people.
Yeah, and there's always, with most filming, if you're filming outside, there's going to be a weather contingency plan. So, there's always going to be that. But then they have to have, like, if the sky's been pretty grey and suddenly it's really sunny, they just usually hold a big, it's like a big tarpaulin and like a light blocker up above you, so it will shade the sun a little bit. It's so magical, all the trickery, when to be on set and see what actually gets done to for lighting, all those the magical angles and everything that you can adopt to try and create a story and make it look different, or a particular way, is really amazing. And when you have a team that works really well together like that, then it's so much fun to be part of, because you're just seeing all the cogs just turning all the time.
Well, I'm going to just stick with the yard theme for a moment. Thinking of specific scenes from episode 1, that first moment when Bea walks into the yard and is being sized up by everybody else. How was that as an actress? Because I imagine a similar thing was going on with the cast and the extras. It was a time for you to be scrutinized personally as well.
For sure. And the beauty of the show for me was that I did get to start right from the beginning of the show being filmed, but also being Bea's first time going into this environment as well. So I didn't really have to do much. I didn't really know anyone. I didn't know any of the other actors too well. I was unfamiliar with the set, with the world, which was exactly what Bea's experience was supposed to be. So it just everything just worked really well for me. Like I said, I didn't feel like I had to do much work. And the extras that they corralled for that first season are so great. Like, there's some real doozies in there. Just people that they were just so much fun and really supportive and wide-eyed, and and the thing is about a lot of the extras on the show, I mean, everyone has a story. When you bring people together for a particular reason, when you get to really hear each other's stories, and a lot of them were very salient to the whole subject matter of Wentworth as well, it added this really great authenticity to the show. But it also just allowed us to kind of bond together as this community of women. It was really great.
It's quite interesting saying you personally going in and not knowing the other cast and the environment. So your sort of confidence, as it were, grows as Bea goes through the season as well. That's great.
Yeah, it does. And that was the one thing, like a lot of, like in the first few days while we were doing research and prep, they did have ex-inmates who very generously and courageously came and spoke to us, as well as correctional officers as well, to talk about their experience, to sort of give us an insight into the world. And for me at that time, it wasn't necessary for me, but it certainly was for some of the other actors and the characters on the show that had been inside for a long time. So, and it wasn't until maybe halfway or 3/4 of the way through season 1 that I actually did go inside a correctional centre to see what it actually felt like, because I had no need to do that before I started shooting.
Right. Do you remember the first scene that you actually recorded?
Oh,
There you go. That's putting you on the spot, isn't
that's
it?
a really good question. Holy moly. I think it might have been. Oh God, it actually really feels like to me that it might have actually been that first. No, it was me sitting in the van. I think that was what we shot first. Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Look at that.
Look at that. It was almost like we just rehearsed that. It's amazing. I really do believe that was it. I think that, you know, like, because if you've got a really great first AD, you know, they'll read that stuff. They'll be like, you know what, why don't we actually shoot this first? You know, and they've managed to schedule it. So, you know, I mean, it's obviously my first day on set, but it's also Bea's first shot and her first experience of coming into this world. And of course, I was in the back of the van with beautiful Louise, who is just I had admired her work from Snowtown, and just the most stunning performance in that film. I don't know if anyone has ever seen it. If you have got a very strong constitution, then watch the film. It is an incredibly powerful, very disturbing film, but she was the lead actress in that film. And I was just, and what was so brilliant is I was actually really shitting myself working with her, which once again worked perfectly for that scene. You know, because there's a whole thing of, oh, you know, give you a gobby and, you know, what's your name? And then I think some of the earlier stuff as well was me arriving at the prison, Robbie Magasiva, Mr. Jackson, questioning me. And I loved it because at that point, I think Robbie had only just arrived in Australia and we were still kind of grappling with the Australian accents. He was like, next of kin, next of kin. And everyone, I could see the crew kind of going, what's he saying? Like, who's Ken?
When you were in the back of that van, I'm assuming you weren't actually being driven through the streets. Was it actually a set?
No, they did do some seat stuff. Oh no, did they? No, I think they did drive through streets. Maybe it's just me remembering how it looked on screen. Oh my goodness, look at me. I can't remember. No, they did actually. No, they had it parked in the studio and we shot that and then went out and did some stuff on the streets as well.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting though. Also, I'm asking you specific questions about
an
episode that you did 10 years ago.
This is like a memory test to me. It's like, what?
Yes, keep it all going. But yeah, I can't believe it's been 10 years since
Amazing.
You must have been in the studio.
Yeah, it is.
I remember sitting and watching that first broadcast and falling in love with the show immediately.
Oh, I'm so glad, because you're a big Prisoner fan, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I think that, you know, for me, if there was any kind of pressure or groups out in the world, because, you know, there were obviously the critics and then, you know, people that had maybe wanted to be part of the show, and there's always going to be people who would be scrutinizing the show. But I think the people that I was most interested in hearing from were Prisoner fans, and to see how it stood up for them, and knowing that we had this amazing blessing from all the other the other actresses who were on the original show. So yeah, the second big test was, what did the, you know, Prisoner fans think of the show? And so I'm so happy too that when I come to these, like being here today with you, also going to Screen Star events and so forth, there's a lot of Prisoner fans there as well. It's great.
And I know we've talked about this before on stage, but there's bound to be other people viewing tonight that maybe haven't heard about this. But I know you talked about the preview that they did, and the original cast were invited to attend.
Yes, and so we had it in a movie theatre. They put it on, so it was like, whoa, hold on a second, we're giants. We'll never be seen like this. You know, oh God, is that what my nostril looks like? Holy moly. But what was great is it was very impactful, and you know, the critics, and of course they had invited some of the original cast members from Prisoner to be there, and they were sitting in a row behind us. And then when the credits rolled and the lights came up in the cinema, we were sitting there, and it was just like that very slow turnaround. Like, what are we gonna be met with? Steam press. But we got met with a standing ovation and an applause, and it was, I think at that moment we all was like, yay, we've got something here, and we've been given their blessing. And I think that it was maybe Colette, or maybe it was Val, I can't remember, one of them that had said, and we pass on the baton to you. And it was just lovely to have that acknowledgement, because it allowed us to really just step into that world. I mean, not that we were ruled by that, but it's just a nice sentiment.
Yeah, it is interesting you saying that Wentworth certainly wasn't ruled by prisoner, and I'm jumping right to the end of the episode here, but that was very, very clearly stated by the death of Meg Jackson at the end of episode 1.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that too. Like, looking for all those little hints. Oh God, I hated shooting that scene. It was terrible. We'll talk about that in a minute. Not one of my favorites. Not one of my favorites. The amalgamation of some of the characters in the show, and them sort of subverting some of those characters and the storylines and everything. I was really excited by that. But then just all those little nods, those little hints, with Chris McQuaid, the beautiful Chris McQuaid who played Jax, singing the famous soundtrack, the song "You Used to Bring Me Roses" at the end of the episode, wasn't it? Oh, I like that. Wasn't the "You used to bring me roses"?
Lovely.
Lovely. It's just little things like that were just just those nice little. Just these little flourishes that if you were in the know, I would hope that you go, oh yeah, and if not, nothing gained, nothing lost. But that scene, it was, once again, when you're shooting things with blood, or stunts or anything like those kinds of setups where you've got, what was it, like was it a can opener or something sticking in?
I don't think it was a can opener. Just opened up a heart.
I just love the world of Wentworth. It's like, you know what? I'm not going to take the knife from the kitchen. I'm going to take the can opener, because that's going to cause more damage. I'm just going to I'm not going to kill her with a knife. Yeah, I'll kill her with a pen, a biro. That's going to work better. Oh, the joys. But when anything like that is involved, it becomes incredibly technical, and of course, you can't keep doing it over and over and over and over and over and over again until you get it perfect, because time is of the essence, as I said before. So, but with that one, they had to have, obviously I had to do the thing of tripping over, and there was a stunt mat down there, and it was just the angle of the camera when I tripped over. It's just the worst trip ever. I'm always so embarrassed whenever I see it. It's kind of one of those moments you just want to have like a, if I could have like a universally global loud cough to go over the top of that while everyone's watching it, that would be ideal for me. But yeah, there was all the blood on the ground, and it was all that kind of weird sticky, it's like usually made out of coffee, red cochineal, and like a glycerin. So it's just like, all that. It's just sticky and gross and horrible. I always just found it awkward in that scene. I'd like to reshoot that one if I could.
Okay. And you've also, the way TV works, you must have spent a couple of hours lying in that substance as well.
All of that. And when you're shooting in slow-mo as well, like they were shooting 100 frames, and so you're taking all that into consideration, and and keeping in mind we're still cutting our teeth in this world and these characters. We hadn't been filming for very long. Everyone's still getting to know each other. It's not just about the actors in the scene, it's about everyone else around you as well, the camera people, the sound people, everyone, all of the practitioners around you, the technical crew, they're all getting used to working with each other and finding their own language as well, so there's not a lot of shorthand at that time, which is why, by I think, season 2, season 3, we're galloping together, but at this point we're still getting to know each other, and and you always, like when season 2 came out, we knew the response to season 1, so it was like, oh phew, okay, we can get on with it now. But at this point you're going, is this working, is it not? Like, is the can opener working? Is it like
it's interesting you're saying that, of course, early on, and they're throwing you in the deep end with a riot in episode 1. That must be quite a health and safety nightmare for the crew and director, to make sure that you get the organized mayhem you want on screen, but actually your cast, your staff are fine.
Yeah. And once again, that comes down to really good stunt choreography and a director. So Kevin Carlin always did the bookends. He always do the episode 1 and then the last episode. And he's so great at getting coverage. He's so easy to work with. Like I mean, most of the directors we work with, I thought were excellent, but he's got a particular way of, setting something up, of working with big groups of people and getting the coverage you need. And when you've got like a big scene like that, if you go back and look at the scene, if you count all the cuts and you go, who are we covering here? It's not just between that. You've got to cover that person, then back into that and out here, and you've got to get Frankie's thing, and you've got to get that hit, and there's so much that goes into it, even though it's just cut really fast together. But yeah, you've got to be very careful when you have big crowd scenes and people who are very rambunctious. Safety is paramount. But sometimes I think people, could go a bit further, like, so what? You broke someone's nose. It looks great on screen.
One thing, I watched the episode last night in preparation, and during the riot scene, there was one thing that occurred to me. I'm sorry, I don't know the girl's name, but the little girl playing Kaya. I was just intrigued how physically and mentally someone that young is looked after and protected on a set as graphic and violent as Wentworth.
Yeah, but keeping in mind, like, once again, that's the trickery of film. Like, she wouldn't have been, even though you're cut to something that's happening, she probably hasn't been in that situation. So when we're shooting with her in the room, it'd be like, oh my goodness, what's going on? Even though she's gone missing, in your head, she's running around seeing all that. She's not. She's actually sitting in the green room having like chubba chubs and being very well looked after. So once
she's eating the paddle pop, isn't she, in the back?
Totally. Yeah. She's in the visitor centre playing. It was great to bring your kids to set, because the visitor centre, like, the set had an amazing kids area. My son used to love coming into my work. But yeah, once again, the protection of children on a set is, oh, thank you, Alida. That's your name. You're fantastic too, wherever you are. I think, most sets now, they're very, very conscious about child safety. And, if they're going to be around situations or depicted situations that could be, graphic or traumatic, there is a long list of protocols that you have to go by. That the parents there, they have people on set who look after them. People will be alerted to the fact there's going to be young ears on set. So, there's, they're only allowed to work for a certain amount of time, so they can't, which is why when you're working with children, you have to film very quickly, because I'm on set, they'll go, you've got to do overtime. With the child, you can't do that. They have to work for 20 minutes and get, 20 minutes off or whatever. So, there are lots of considerations when there are kids on set. And, like most sets that I've been on, it's been really well run. And what might look like to us very traumatic for that child, usually not, and you might have someone that is screaming at a child, but they might not actually even, it will cut back to them, but they might not have ever been in that scene. They would have had me screaming to a tennis ball. And then they just they would have filmed the child in another setup. It's interesting when you start looking at film, screen work, and when you have an insight into how things are done, to go, oh, I wonder how they did that. If you can watch an episode of something you really love, then go back and watch it again and go, hold on, where's the setup? How did they do that? Is there someone else there? Are they not? Like I said, it's all trickery. It's all smoke and mirrors.
Have you done much green screen work? Yeah.
I have. I've done a lot in when I worked on a TV show called Xena. Warrior Princess, which was fun, lots and lots of fun. I've also done some just in this may sound strange, not sort of acting, but lots of presenting stuff in front of green screen. I used to present a music show in New Zealand years ago. It was a late night music show, and all the graphics on the back were all green screen, so I didn't really have to interact with it. But yeah, I mean, that's always challenging because you don't. I mean, I think it's getting better now, but you don't know where things are at. So sometimes that's why it looks off when you see actors kind of looking, and you go, but you're not actually looking at that person. But I did some on Wentworth, but also some CGI trickery stuff, like where they've actually gone back in and they've painted in more blood, or they've, I think I know we're talking about episode 1, but for example, the scene where Bea is in in season 2 and cuts her wrists, they did some CGI stuff on that.
Oh, okay. Now, there were a couple more scenes I'd like to talk to you about from episode 1.
You want to talk to me about my guinea pigs, don't you? My guinea pigs that I just got?
Your guinea pig? No.
Yeah, I just got some guinea pigs. They're the best. They're the
best. Did you?
Guinea pigs. Oh! Yeah. Hold on, where's my guinea pigs? My guinea pigs are just there. And so if you can hear, they're just there. Can you see?
How many have you got?
Just 2.
I can see a guinea pig cage.
We're completely in love. So if you can hear a little, it's not my bones creaking, it's my little guinea pigs. Anyway, ask me some more questions about Wentworth.
No, let's talk about guinea pigs more.
I should have named them. I should have named them after characters in the show, but my son is intent to call them things to do with the stars in the sky. I could have called one of them, definitely could have called one of them Joan Ferguson, because it was like quite a dark one. The other one maybe Boomer. Boomer and Joan would be good.
That would be, yeah. Boomer and Freak. No, that's not fair. You can't call a guinea pig
Boomer and the Freak. You little freak.
Anyhow, back to Wentworth.
Yes, back to Wentworth.
The drug drop scene where you go into the visitors' room and have to exchange the balloon of drugs. That must be quite an interesting, slightly awkward scene to record with a stranger.
Yes, indeed. And once again, it's one of those things where you have lots of discussions and you discuss, safety and, everything that needs to be discussed at a time like that. But, once again, for me, the awkwardness, the apprehension, the anxiety was perfect for what my character was supposed to be going through. So I didn't have to do anything. It was all there. It was like, this is weird. This is crazy. I don't want to do this. This is, And of course you don't want to do those kinds of things in front of people and with someone you don't know. So, and I'm a big, big fan of working with my environment and working with how I really feel. I think it adds a beautiful authenticity to the performance, and it grounds you. I feel like pretending to be something other when there's a whole lot of stuff going on, it just I think it undermines the performance anyway. So I like taking on board what is going on for me at the time and what's going on in my periphery and work with that. So it was perfect.
What is great about that whole scenario, from the tension of you getting the wrong person initially, or Bea getting the wrong person initially, then swapping the drugs. Is Bea going to get away with this? And then, of course, having to vomit the drugs out again. Brilliant script writing is in all this drama. You then have Boomer sat there having a poo while all the drama was going on.
I know. And the thing is, I don't know, it was a shame they got rid of that set. Do you know that set never really came back, did it?
No,
it never came back. And that was this great moment of like, well, this is what I loved about it was like, within that scene, apart from what was going on for them, like that thing of, we're all about the drugs, it's like just being choked, like with Frankie with her fingers down her throat, and, just like how revolting and ugly this situation is that it showed you in that one scene, with the open booths and everything, open toilets, that there is no privacy in prison. That there's no such thing as having doors where you can shut a door and then lock yourself away. When it comes to those kind of the moments where we want to be the most private, that doesn't exist. And I really loved it, that this was like another great introduction into Bea's world, of what Bea's world was going to be like from this point. And just the, how for Frankie, you know, that was her livelihood. It was so important to her that she had those drugs, you know, whatever the collateral damages. And in this case, you know, for Bea, it's like she needs to get those drugs. She needs to get the drugs to stay on top, needs to be top dog, you know, all of that. Because without that's then she's unable to survive. And this is a story where, you know, this whole world was set up to see how these people survive in this environment. We get an insight into how they've survived outside, but ultimately it's down to how do these people survive in this world? What do they need to do to stay on top?
Now, we have a question here from Heather, who would like to know how it was working with Georgia. Talking about the chemistry between you.
Yeah. Hi, Heather. Thank you for your question. I'm just, do you know what? I'll just say this first. I just did an audition for a show that Georgia's in to play her mother.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. She's, it's a show called Nautilus. And she's filming that right now, and it's based. I know it's been publicly announced, so it's about what is it? The Jules Verne story, and I just auditioned to play her mother, and I just wanted to I was like, do I have to audition for this? Like, can I just show you, you know, what we did on screen and Wentworth? I was like, maybe not, you know, like. It's pretty, you know, pretty intense. I loved working with Georgia. She's one of the few people that I've ever played the mother to who I actually believed was my daughter. You know, that we looked like each other, and she is such a committed, open-minded, very grounded actor as well, and a beautiful human being. So it was so easy to work with her, and you know, she just shows up. She really shows up. And, you know, like that's all you can ask for when you're on set, is to work with people who are fully there, you know, that know their work, that are really open to the experience and you know, just there to really just be there. And I mean, she's divine. I was completely in awe of her. She's a musician. She writes her own music. She DJs. She's just like, she's like a quadruple threat. She's amazing.
Heather's question mentioned the chemistry between you. Did you actually do a chemistry test in auditions with Georgia?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. And, you know, I mean, and I'm glad I didn't have to, because she was so perfect. You know, it just seemed, you know, like, and the thing is with Joe and the producers for Wentworth, Joe's really great at casting. Like, she's a fan, you know, that's a, you know, among her many strengths, she has an incredible eye for casting. And so, you know, her casting Georgia and you know, once again, by virtue of how we connected on screen, and you know, I think, you know, the first work that I really did with her was all of that really intense stuff in the garage, and then, you know, having to say goodbye, getting taken away by the police, and her crying, and you know, all of that. Because Bea was carrying Debbie within her heart, the whole of that, you know, that season was all about Debbie. That was the most important thing for Bea, was just to maintain connection with Debbie. It wasn't hard for me to have those feelings, because Georgia was so gorgeous, and I was just like, oh, you know, it made it easy for me to really, you know, to have Debbie as my main focus. And so when it came to, you know, losing her and all of that, which is such a great, you know, like emotional provocation for where Bea goes on from that point, and her journey, an incredibly sad one, but so rich for me as an actor. It was just the best material to play with.
Well, hopefully you'll be up for joining us again at another one of these discussions. We might talk about that episode in more detail. Who knows, further down the line. There's one more scene.
I hope so.
Yeah, well, I can't let you go without discussing one last scene from episode 1. Really a pivotal moment for Bea so early in the series is when she finally stands up to Jax in the dining room.
Yes. You know, that was another scene that I would really like to be able to go back and do again. I never really felt like I nailed that scene. You know, there are some that always stick out to me. I go, God damn, you know, like I might have just been having a little bit of an off day, you know, but I really feel like I'd like to go back and do that again. And I think there are a lot of reasons why, perhaps one of them being, you know, acting with Chris McQuaid is a very unnerving thing. You know, she's so fantastic, and I think that she was such a great villain in that show. Like, she really was. It was such a shame that she met such a sort of like stationary demise with a pen in her neck. But it was, you know, those moments are pivotal because we need to see that Bea has got, you know, the whole thing about this is, you know, and for the prisoner or people who are familiar with Prisoner, they go, we know that Bea Smith is going to become top dog, but when? It's not a matter of if, it's when and how. And so for the people that knew the story of Bea Smith, you go, oh, this is one of those moments that we see that she's actually got the mozza, she's got what it takes. For the people who not, it's like, oh, okay, hold on. You know, it creates a tension. Immediately you go, either that was the best thing you've ever done or is the stupidest thing that you've ever done. You know, and it was.
I'm so surprised that you're saying that that's a scene you'd like to revisit because every time I've seen it, I said, I watched it again last night. I think it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. It gets her hairs when she finally just turns around and goes, no, get your own tea. And
I know. It's just the delivery though, John. I feel like I was not right on top of how I wanted to deliver it. I think that I was thinking about the lines too much as opposed to why she suddenly wanted to just kind of nail it, you know, that we, you know, I just think for her in that moment, it was like, you know what, I am not going to be pushed around anymore. I am here now. You know, like she had tried to, you know, instead of turning around to Harry and going, that's enough, she chose to set up a situation to make it look like he had killed himself. You know, that was the easier choice for her than turning around and going, that's enough. And so I feel like this is all of that work for her after being in that relationship and then ending up in prison was her going, that's enough. And I don't know, there was just a little bit of that I felt like I wanted to just invest in that. But everyone else in that scene's amazing. And look, I shouldn't point out the stuff that's not great. People will go back and watch it again and be like, yeah, you weren't great in that scene.
Yeah, I'll watch it tomorrow and go, oh yeah, Dan was right. She's rubbish now.
No wonder you didn't get the Emmy, babe. No wonder you didn't get the Emmy.
Well, we are so nearly out of time, but I just want to touch on a current project that you're doing. So jumping ahead 10 years, you're doing a new show that's prison themed, I gather, but not a drama this time.
Yes. Oh, actually, no, I've been doing two actually. So I've just finished shooting. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a BBC drama. It's called The Secrets She Keeps. So I've just finished shooting that. It's with Laura Carmichael, who was, I think, made her claim to fame in Downton Abbey. She came over here and shot. The first season's already been shot and aired in the UK. It rated very, very highly. I've just been on the second season of that playing. Wait for it. The Minister for Corrections. So I have been playing completely the other side of the coin. It was lots and lots of fun. So, you know, a lot of that kind of banter and, a lot of political jargon and so forth around corrections, which is fun. But I've also just finished, I didn't finish, it's airing now. We're up to episode 3 next week. It's a TV show, a documentary called Life on the Outside, which charts people who have just recently been released from incarceration. And the program is an initiative where people from families and or individuals have opened up their homes for 100 days to allow these people to come in, to offer them a stable, secure place to reintegrate back into the community rather than sort of being slammed into a boarding house with nothing, and to see whether that helps curb the acts of reoffending, because most people will reoffend within that first 100 days if they don't have that security and stability and safety. And it's something that's very close to me. You know, I've realized now that, the one thing that I loved about working on Wentworth was I was incredibly passionate about the show. I loved the characters. I loved the world. I was very, very passionate about it. And so, and it invigorates me. And the one thing I loved about working on this show, what I realized is I'm incredibly passionate about prison reform and lobbying for like new legislation around incarceration. I think that the idea of shunting people away into big warehouses with each other, treat them like animals, is not the way to recovery. It costs taxpayers a lot of money. It just traumatizes, it re-traumatizes people. It's not for everyone. I think there are some people that actually do isolation is probably the best for them and for the community, but there's a lot of people that are getting locked away that shouldn't be. So I'm very passionate around that too. Yeah, well, I just need to find. Sorry.
Go ahead. I'll just say that's one of the central themes of Wentworth, isn't it? That actually you see these prisoners as a mass, and you get to know their individual histories and stories, and their people.
Yeah, and this is interestingly so. When people see this show, not Wentworth, but Life on the Outside, it's a documentary where we're meeting people, real people, not characters. And some of them are characters, very much so. Real people with real life experiences, most of whom have had a very, very challenging, very fraught upbringing, which is not necessarily an excuse, but like it certainly doesn't set you up on solid footing for the rest of your life. And what I find interesting is that people love the characters. They fall in love with the characters from Wentworth. And those characters are incredibly flawed. They've done some atrocious things to end up in prison. But because we have a chance to sit with them and the way that they're drawn by the writer, we go, oh, I love that character. They're so lovely. And you go, yeah, but they threw a bad thing of hot oil in someone's face on live TV, or they, they tried to, So we kind of, we put them in this place of making them these sensational characters, but they are the same as these people, the guests that were on the show Life on the Outside, similar people. They're very broken, they're charismatic, they've had a story, but people be like, oh, you don't relate to them the same way. So I guess for me, it was like, just to invite people to look at it the same way and go, these people are just like characters too. They're not, they're real people, but they have those same flaws. They have, when you give people a chance to really, or when you give yourself a chance to really view people, to get to know them, then like you do these characters on Wentworth, then I think we become a little bit more understanding, and the power of kindness comes to the fore a lot more.
Well, that's a beautiful note to finish on, because I'm afraid we are out of time. It has been a joy talking to you again after so long.
It's so lovely, darling, and I can't wait to come over. Please, everyone, or the one person who's online watching me, they're like, oh, why couldn't Nicole be on? Where's Boomer? Where's Katrina? No, thank you. If there are still people watching, I'm so looking forward to coming over. Please come and see me at Screen Star events, and it's going to be so much fun, like it really is. If you've never been, I highly recommend the experience.
Yeah, they're good fun. And I'm sure we'll see you again on Wentworth Unlocked for more chat about future episodes. So thank you for joining us for chatting about the show, and of course introducing us to your new family members in the cage behind you.
Oh, I know, they're so cute. Anyway, thank you everyone, and I'll see you in June.
Take care.